At the dazzling wedding of her adopted daughter, Leah, Sylvie Brooks stood at the entrance, clutching an envelope that carried a secret worth $60 million. But instead of being welcomed, Leah humiliated her in front of everyone, calling her an embarrassment and ordering her to leave. What Leah didn't know was that Sylvie had saved her entire life to gift her that fortune. Months later, when Leah's perfect marriage crumbled and she was cast out, pregnant and broken, she found herself standing at the gates of the very woman she had once rejected, only to discover mercy would come with conditions she never imagined. Before we go any further, if this is your first time watching one of our videos, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us bring you even more powerful stories. Stick with us till the very end. And if this story moves you, drop your thoughts in the comments and share it with a friend. Now, let's begin. The alley smelled of damp cardboard and yesterday's rain. A cold breeze cut through the silence, carrying with it the faint sound of traffic from the main road. Beneath a broken street lamp, Sylvie Brooks stopped in her tracks. She was on her way home after another double shift, her shoes worn thin, her back aching. But it wasn't the pain in her body that made her pause. It was the soft, muffled cry she heard drifting from the shadows. Her eyes adjusted, and there it was, a bundle of rags against the wall, moving slightly. Sylvie's breath caught. She bent down, hands trembling, and pulled back the thin cloth. A tiny face, pale as porcelain, strewn with tears. A baby alone, abandoned. For a moment, she froze, the weight of choice pressing down on her chest. She had nothing, barely enough to keep herself alive. People passed by on the far side of the street, some glancing, most ignoring. Sylvie whispered to herself, "If I walk away, she won't make it through the night." And so she didn't walk away. She scooped the baby into her arms, her warmth immediately quieting the tiny sobs. She named her Leah because, as she later told herself, this child would one day be her clear purpose in life. The years that followed weren't easy. Sylvie worked as a cleaner in offices during the day and as a caregiver in the evenings. Her hands were always raw from bleach, her back stiff from lifting. Yet every coin she earned seemed to vanish into formula. Tiny shoes or school fees. Neighbors gossiped quietly on porches. She ain't even her blood. Raising a white child is her own. She's crazy. Sylvie heard it all. Sometimes she even caught the words thrown right at her when she walked past, clutching Leah's little hand, but she never answered with anger. She would just hold her chin a little higher, squeeze Leah's hand a little tighter, and keep walking. When Leah needed glasses, Sylvie skipped meals to buy them. When she wanted piano lessons, Sylvie sold her wedding ring. And when she asked for new shoes for a school dance, Sylvie worked 3 nights straight to make it happen. Inside, she told herself it was worth it. Every sacrifice meant her daughter could shine brighter. But there was something no one knew. While Sylvie gave everything, she was also quietly, carefully saving. Each paycheck, no matter how small, she put aside a sliver. She taught herself to read financial papers, studied investment brochures during her lunch breaks, asked quiet questions in banks. Pennies grew into dollars. Dollars grew into portfolios. And by the time Leah was grown, Sylvie's secret savings had swelled into something unimaginable. $60 million. Her plan was simple. On Leah's wedding day, she would finally reveal it. A marriage present, a future secured. But for now, she said nothing. She just smiled at her daughter, proud and tired, believing that all the pain, all the sacrifice had been leading to that one perfect moment. The venue rose like a glass cathedral. All chrome edges and white roses breathing out perfume into the warm afternoon. Music bled softly from hidden speakers. A valet opened doors for black SUVs that kept arriving one after another. People stepping out in glitter and pressed suits. Sylvie paused at the curb, smoothing the crease on her thrifted dress, the envelope tucked under her palm like a heartbeat. Inside the foyer, light spilled over marble floors. Staff whispered into headsets. A planner waved a clipboard and a champagne tower threw prisms on the ceiling. Sylvie walked carefully along the red runner, keeping to the edge. Her shoes clicked, hesitant. She could smell the lilies, the wax of polished wood, a hint of citrus from polished hands. A guest in a sequin gown glanced over his shoulder.
"Who's that?"
"Not sure." A man murmured back. "Vendor," and from somewhere, their voices faded into the strings of a quartet. At the check-in stand, a young man in black tie scanned a tablet. His smile was practiced. "Name, please." "Sylvie Brooks," she said softly. His fingers slid, paused, slid again. Micro frown. The planner leaned in, tasted the name with her eyes. "Do you mean Sylvie Vendor?" "Florist." The headset crackled. "I'm the mother." Sylvie answered, almost a whisper. She lifted the envelope an inch, then tucked it back down as if it might startle. The planner's smile tightened. "One moment, ma'am." She spoke into her mic, head tilted. Another staffer arrived, the tablet refreshed, the line of guests pressed behind, restless, perfume and cologne rising like heat. "Hey, mindrunner," a videographer said, guiding Sylvie half a step off the carpet. "Ride's about to make a pass." Polite, not unkind, just busy, Sylvie exhaled. Her fingers found the envelope's edge. She breathed the way she learned on long night shifts.
"Slow in, slow out."
The tablet bearer cleared his throat. I'm not seeing that name on the list."
His voice softened.
"We can check again." A pair of bridesmaids drifted close. Satin catching light like water. "Is she lost?" One whispered. "Maybe she's pressed," the other said. "No badge, though." Then Leah appeared, glossed hair, pearl veil pinned in a perfect arc, beauty drawn sharp by makeup and spotlights. For a second, their eyes touched. The years between the alley, the homework, the dinners on chip plates flashed behind Sylvie's chest like a film reel. Her mouth almost formed a smile. Leah blinked once. Her jaw set. She didn't look at the envelope. She looked at the dress, the shoes, the frayed purse strap. "We talked about this," she said low and quick, glancing at the planner, then at the camera circling her fingers smooth her bodice, a nervous, polished move. "You weren't supposed to come." Sylvie's hand tightened. "I just wanted to say congratulations." Behind him, Mark's friends laughed at something off camera. "Hi, careless notes." A groomsman clocked the scene and nudged another. "Who is she?" "Not on the list," the other said, eyes already moving away. "PR is going to freak."
"Please."
Leah's voice dipped almost a hiss dressed as a smile. "This is a brand day. Guests are uncomfortable. I can't have this." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. A security guard, big but bored, hovered close enough to cast a shadow. The planner offered a gentle out. "We can escort you to the public terrace if you'd like to watch the procession from a distance." For heartbeat, Sylvie's body swayed like a branch taking wind. She steadied, nodding once, a tiny motion. No tears.
"Not yet."
The envelope pressed into her palm. The papers grained, carving a soft line. One of the bridesmaids tried to soften it with a shrug. "Hey, nothing personal," she said, smile tight. "It's just, numbers capacity." Her eyes slid away before the sentence ended. Sylvie turned. The world became texture. The chill from the glass wall, the hum of air conditioning, the faint clean bite of eucalyptus in the florals. Someone brushed past and said, "Sorry." Without looking, another guest muttered, "Awkward," under his breath like it was weather. At the revolving doors, an older waiter stepped aside, caught her eye, and gave the smallest nod. Respect threaded with pity. "Take care, ma'am," he said, almost inaudible. The kindness hit harder than the cruelty. Outside, the city heat folded around her. Traffic sighed. A breeze lifted the veil of a woman hurrying in, and for a second, it fluttered across Sylvie's wrist like a ghost of lace. She adjusted her sleeve. Checked the envelope. Still there. Still heavy, and walked down the steps, one careful stare at a time. At the curb, a couple whispered behind her, "Did she crash the wedding?" "Maybe a relative. They don't claim." The other said, "He happens." Sylvie didn't turn. She reached the bus stop, sat on the cool metal bench, and rested the envelope across her knees. The city moved indifferent. She watched a shadow of her reflection in the glass, lined face, steady gaze, and let a single breath leave her body, long and quiet, not broken.
Not yet.
When the bus finally pulled up, she stood slowly, took the envelope to her chest, and stepped aboard. Each wrung a calm decision. No scene, no spectacle, just a woman carrying a gift the world didn't want to see yet. The ride home that night was a blur of neon and engine hum. Sylvie sat pressed against the bus window, her reflection trembling with every bump in the road. The envelope still rested in her lap, untouched, its corners damp from the sweat of her palm. She had dreamed of handing it to Leah with trembling joy, of watching her daughter's face soften in shock and gratitude. Instead, the paper now felt heavier than bricks. Her small house welcomed her with silence. A clock ticked. The fridge hummed. Sylvie placed the envelope on the kitchen table and stared at it. For hours she sat in that chair, her hands clasped, eyes red but dry. She whispered almost to herself, "If she doesn't want me, then this gift isn't hers anymore." Days blurred into weeks. The sting of humiliation began to cool, replaced by a quiet clarity. Sylvie rose one morning with a decision hardening in her chest. She took the envelope, went to the bank, and began moving the money. Not to her daughter, but into something greater. She founded the Leah House Foundation, named not in bitterness, but as a reminder of the child she had once found in an alley. The foundation started small, a rented building, 6 CS, a soup pot simmering on a second-hand stove. But word spread quickly. Donations trickled in. Volunteers showed up. And within months, Sylvie had shelters across the city. Children who once slept in gutters now had beds and books. She became a quiet force of hope, respected in ways money alone could never buy. Meanwhile, Sylvie's name began to circulate in whispers. At church, women leaned into each other. "Did you hear? Miss Brooks bought that old building and turned it into a school. Impossible on a cleaner's wage. She's smarter than she lets on. I always said so." While Sylvie built, Leah's world was unraveling. The glossy photos from her wedding still floated across social media, but the cracks beneath were widening. Mark's charm soured behind closed doors. He checked her phone, raised his voice at small mistakes, criticized the meals she cooked, the way she laughed. By the 3rd month, bruises showed faintly beneath her makeup. By the 4th, he began disappearing at night, coming back with a smell of perfume that wasn't hers. At 5 months, paparazzi caught him in a car with another woman. And though Leah smiled for the cameras the next day, her hands shook on live streams. 6 months into her pregnancy, the house exploded in chaos. Mark shouted, accusing her of cheating. His words slashed. His hands slammed doors. And finally, he ordered her out. The mansion's gate clicked shut behind her. She stood in the cold, suitcase in one hand, her other hand resting on her swollen stomach. Alone. Neighbors whispered through hedges. "That's the influencer's wife, isn't it?" He kicked her out with a baby on the way. Leah kept walking, each step heavier than the last. Her mind circled one thought, sharp and relentless. There's only one place left to go. Back at the foundation, Sylvie was giving a tour to a group of donors when she saw a figure by the gates. Leah, hair disheveled, makeup strewn with tears, holding her belly with both arms. For a long, quiet moment, Sylvie didn't move. She just watched. Leah's lips trembled as she whispered across the distance, "Mom, I'm sorry. Please, I need you." The scene froze heavy, with all the years between. Volunteers nearby whispered softly, "Is that her daughter? The same one who threw her out at the wedding. What's she doing here now?" The air seemed to hold its breath. Sylvie's face softened, yet behind her eyes was something deeper, something steadier. Love remained, but the days of blind sacrifice were over. The gates of the foundation creaked open, and Leah stepped inside. Each movement cautious, as if the ground itself might reject her. Her dress was wrinkled, her suitcase dragging against the gravel. The baby inside her stirred, a reminder of the weight she now carried alone. Volunteers nearby paused, their conversations hushed, eyes trailing the young woman who had once cast her mother aside in front of the world. Sylvie walked slowly to meet her. The years of sacrifice showed in her tired frame, but her eyes were steady. She stopped a few feet away. Silence pressed between them, heavy with memory. Leah broke first. Her voice cracked. "Mom, I don't have anywhere else to go. He said I cheated, and he threw me out. Please, I was wrong. I should never have at the wedding Her words tangled into sobs, shoulders shaking as she dropped to her knees on the stone path. Some of the staff turned away, giving them space. Others whispered just loud enough after everything she did to that woman. Life comes back around, doesn't it? Sylvie let the words drift in the air. She crouched slightly, her hand hovering for a second before resting gently on Leah's shoulder. Her voice was calm, not cold, measured like a verdict. "You can move in," she said softly. "But not here in my home. You'll stay in the guest house and you'll work at the orphanage. You'll earn every penny. Not because I don't love you, but because love without discipline makes us blind." Leah nodded through tears.
She didn't argue.
She didn't protest. She accepted the condition like a lifeline thrown to someone drowning. Weeks later, people began to notice. The once polished influencer's wife now wore plain uniforms, serving meals to abandoned children, cleaning floors, folding blankets at night. At first, some snickered. "Isn't that the girl from the wedding?" But slowly, whispers shifted. Others saw her bending to tie a child's shoe or staying late to read stories by dim light, her own stomach heavy with her unborn child. And Sylvie watched from the sidelines, not with cruelty, but with a mother's quiet resolve. She had given Leah everything once before: sacrifice, love, even her fortune. This time she would give her something different. The chance to rebuild herself through humility, through work, through grace. The day Leah's child was born, Sylvie stood outside the hospital room, listening to the first cry. She closed her eyes and let a long breath escape. Life had come full circle. The woman who had once been cast out was now the one holding the door open. And for Leah, it was only the beginning. Because sometimes the greatest gift isn't money or mansions or fame. Sometimes the greatest gift is the second chance to grow. Even if you have to start from the guest house, life has a way of writing its own justice. Sylvie gave her heart, her years, and her fortune only to be humiliated by the one she loved most. But instead of bitterness, she chose purpose. And when the world turned on Leah, the mother she rejected became the only shelter left. It's proof that betrayal may wound you, but it doesn't have to define you. Because true power isn't in revenge. It's in the strength to forgive while still teaching the lesson that needed to be learned. Would you have let Leah back in or left her to face the same cold world she once forced on Sylvie? Tell me in the comments. And don't forget, there are more stories like this waiting for you here. Subscribe so you don't miss the next twist life has in store.